One of the things that I read was this thing called the 1 hour strategy. This is interesting because we think about strategy. It's global. It's a lot of things that you need to do. And when I heard this 1 hour strategy, it's like, how is it different from traditional strategy approaches?
I think I would think it's very different because traditionally strategy is a boardroom exercise
Hmm.
or something for the top of the organization. There's even definitions of strategy saying that what the top of the organization does, which I think is a nonsense definition. But traditionally, it's for a select group of people that, and also traditionally, it's this kind of odd thing. It's something that you do irregularly. You do it off-site, so you move somewhere else. You have a couple of days, and it's kind of special. It's exceptional, and the whole idea and the 1 hour strategy book. It's a short book. It's a story,
Hmm.
storytelling, like sharing a new idea of what strategy could also look like, and it's different in two ways. One is that it is something for everyone. So the 1 hour. So this is the spoiler alert. The 1 hour rule refers to the idea that as an executive level, you need to spend 1 hour per day. At the kind of mid level, 1 hour per week, and at the lower level, or if you the non leadership positions, 1 hour per month. So the idea is everyone in the organization needs to spend time on strategy, not just boardroom, not just top. So that's quite a radical difference. And the second difference is what I outlined, the idea I outlined in that book is it should be a normal, kind of almost mundane process. It's not something exceptional. You don't need to go to a hotel or a resort and do some team building exercises and make it special. No, this should be a regular, every day, every week, every month, a continuous business process throughout the organization. And because that is so far off what we
Hmm.
see in most organizations around the globe, I started with this book just sharing the idea and showing some simple way of how this could work to make sure that people can even imagine the idea that it can be very different from the traditional approach.
Working in different organizations, what I've found is people actually are not that great at strategy, and they do go to hotels and they spend a lot of time. And especially as the organization grows, and I've worked for very large organizations, strategy becomes more thinner and thinner, and it's like you really don't see a direction. The teams, the employees are not in a position to see what's going on. What advice do you have for such folks?
That's a very big question because the difference that I just sketched between the traditional approach and how I think strategy should be done is quite radical, from top down to all over the organization, from exceptional to a normal business process. So there's a couple of things you need to focus on. This is not just simple tips. That it's too big of a transition to have just simple tips. One is you need kind of the tools to do this. Like if you want people to work on that strategy at every level, and you also want to make sure this is coherent and consistent and aligned, you need one and the same tool or a few tool set that you can use across the organization. And I know for managing performance, there are such tools like OKRs, OGSM, and so on and so forth. For strategy development, there are not really such tools. So
Right.
one of the simple tools in the book is what I call the 6M model, decomposing strategy into its core elements: means, magic, market, meaning, money, momentum. And if you like, we can go into depth later on. But it's a simple template where everyone at their level can think about strategy at their level. So if you are just have your own work, you can think about the strategy for your job. If you're leading a team, you can think about the strategy for your team. Same for business unit, division, department, and the entire organization. So you need the tools, also the technology, because to really do this, you do need some software and probably AI to really make it work. So that's the tool technology side. And the second, let's focus on three elements. The second element is governance, the way the organization works. Because if you say strategy is everyone's job, that's quite a radical thing to say, because it also means that people need to have the time, the freedom, the responsibility, the accountability to actually think about their strategy and work on that, even if it's just 1 hour per month. So it's quite a change in how you lead your organization, how the organization works, and the governance structure, and so on. And third, competence. Uh, you started the question with kind of saying not many organizations are great at strategy,
Yeah.
and that's because not many people are great at strategy. Because where do you learn it? It's of course there's strategy courses in every MBA program. I've taught those as well. But then after such a course, can you really do this? Do you have the competencies? Because they focus not on competencies but on tools, on SWOT, on five forces. So once you understand the tool, you're supposed to be able to do strategy, which is not the case. So competence development, and that's why with our company we focus so much on helping individuals at every level develop the competencies that you need in order to strategize for your work, whether it's a leadership position or not.
That kind of gets into some thoughts that I have where work through the industrial era really was about separating the doing from the thinking, and strategy has been reserved at the executive level, which then chokes off entire teams. So I love the fact that you're presenting this as a skill that can be learned. What sort of steps do organizations need to take to really bring those strategic competencies, those skills,
Mhm.
out of the executive suite and more broadly across the organization?
Yeah, of course. One, and that's not so much, I think, the task for the organization, the executive, but more my task is kind of define what are these skills, because it's easy to talk about strategic skills, but what does that mean? And if you look in what's around, most of them focus on strategic thinking. So still on the thinking part, not on the doing part. So that's why we have what we call a big five of strategy framework, outlining really not just the thinking, but also the doing competencies. So that's on my side. But then I think there's three things organizations need to look at. One is assess. So basically identify which competencies are there, which are not, who has the right competencies, who has not yet, what are people's strengths, what are their weaknesses. So like any other competency assessment that's out there, assess your strategic competencies, because that's the starting point. Know what you're already good at, and know the competencies you still need to develop. Second, a logical follow-up would be develop. So develop the competencies through training, through learning. There's of course many ways of doing that. Part of it is teaching, like you do at the university. There's self-learning, use of AI, the coaching. There's all kind of ways to help people develop those competencies. And third, bet that in their work, because I've seen so many assessments. So you do the assessment, that's nice, but then what? Same for trainings. You do a training, and after the training, if you're lucky, like 10% is retains, but mostly it was fun, it was interesting, but we moved back to work.
Yeah.
So if you fundamentally want to improve an organization's strategic competence, you need to embed it in the processes, in people's job descriptions, in their annual meetings they have. So really embed it in the way of working to make sure that it is part of their work. So those are the three, I think, if you look at the big picture, how can you make this work? What you need to do as an organization.